Yes, we are back. Just what? Barely 2 hours after our most recent broadcast. And the reason as to why we do return is because there's some breaking news on the side of Arsenal, that some crucial news that is coming in our feed on the side of Arsenal. I know a lot of Arsenal fans have sort of waited for this to happen, and finally it looks like it's happening. So I thought we ought to come on here and give it perhaps the publicity that it all needs, especially for Arsenal fans out there. I'm sure they would really be interested in hearing this. Um, and that's regarding Martin Zubimendi, because at last he is in London to try and complete that deal from Real Sociedad. So I thought it was worth talking about, that it's worth discussing. So please join us as we do get to digest that news that just came in about an hour ago or so, depending. But it's quite important that I think we should get right to it. Just waiting for you guys to join the broadcast so that we can begin to digest that news. That really important news. If there's anyone out there that thinks it's worth the talk, then yeah, do join us. Do join us, please. Do join us and let's talk it over. Because it feels like, and I was reading a joke from a certain account, I think it's called Paddy Power on X, who are saying Arsenal have signed Martin Zubimendi for the 50th time, because it's just that gift that keeps on giving in as far as Arsenal news is concerned. As far as Arsenal news is concerned, it's not going to go away. It's just not going to go away. It just keeps coming back. Was it yesterday we were waking up with a big headline in Spain of how Real Madrid had met, Zubimendi bosses, and because that keeps happening, you expect that you're going to get this kind of chatter around it. And so every time there's a new development or any news whatsoever regarding Martin Zubimendi to Arsenal, then maybe it's worth giving it a go. And as of this morning, David Austin said Martin Zubimendi is in London to meet Arsenal officials and complete formalities of a transfer to Emirates Stadium. 26-year-old Spanish international midfielder joins from Real Sociedad in deal long since regarded at Arsenal as done plus signed. So there it is. So many of you will wonder, why do we have to keep talking about the same player? It's because, like I keep saying, until the player is holding that shirt, that jersey of your club, you can never say it's done. You can never say it's done. So guys, if you're just joining us, please like the broadcast. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you're new here and help support what we do. Robert Kesakos is my name, and I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. And thanks for joining us on this lunchtime broadcast, if it is within lunch hours. I know in the UK it's about approaching 11 a.m. In India it's about what? About 2 p.m. approaching 3. So regardless of where you're joining us from, much appreciated for having you. But Martin Zubimendi, there you have it, has finally traveled to London to meet Arsenal officials as the two parties see out the closure of that move. Remember the last time it had been reported, or at least fans had speculated that he had traveled to London to London to do his medicals. He refuted those rumors by posting photos on social media of him on the beach at Chile before he went on to represent the Spanish national team in the UEFA Nations League for the semi-finals there, in which they beat France 5-4 and then eventually lost to the final on penalties that proceeded was it a 2-2 draw in normal time? So to win it 5-3 on penalties. So there is Martin Zubimendi finally in London to meet Arsenal officials. We are getting that news from the reliable David Austin that he is in London to meet officials to complete formalities of the transfer to the Emirates Stadium. Now, for long, also Sinjab, hi bro. Hi Sinjab. How are you doing? Sorry, Sanjay. Sanjay. Hi Sanjay, how are you doing? Where are you joining us from? Now, for long we've been told also that Real Sociedad did request Arsenal that perhaps to try and complete the deal uh, after July 1st so that they do get that as business, perhaps on a new financial year. And depending on the timelines, I think we are really looking in the realms of that in terms of finishing the formalities for everything surrounding this deal. In regards to the paperwork, good. How are you? I'm also doing good. I hope you are well. Where are you joining us from? So we are what? We are about today is 20th, so we are about 10 days to the end of the month, and then suddenly we'll be in July. So really, the timeline kind of speaks to that. When you consider everything that falls in between, if let's say their books on the other side close anywhere between June and whatever, or end of June exactly, or mid-June, speaks to that, regardless of how they calculate their timelines. But at least it speaks to that speculation that as Real Sociedad had requested Arsenal that this deal be completed at least after July 1st. But the player is in London, according to the reliable David Onston of The Athletic, that he is in London to meet Arsenal bosses and then possibly have his medicals scheduled, talk over, any last couple of details. We also did get information, I think it was yesterday, from Fabrizio Romano, clarifying further on this deal as well, to say that the expectation was that he will be joining, he will be making the switch to Arsenal anytime from then, and it looks like nothing is changed at the moment. David Onston simply coming out to confirm what we had already known from from Fabrizio Romano. Trying to find that exact tweet or quote so that I can read it for you guys in regards to what we are referring to for what he had to say about the deal, essentially. But it's always been considered a done deal, dating as far back as May. Explorer, hi, do you remember me? Obviously, Explorer. I always do remember people that do frequent this channel, and Explorer is one of those, alongside the likes of H Gamer, Amlen, Mariam, Ahmed Septa from Indonesia, Peter Parker, Pressing Kosi, and so many others. Yesterday we had a new member from South Africa, Ghost. Today, as of this morning, we also had some new members. One from Australia called Dennis. Then the other was the Yellow Dayak from Malaysia. Yes. So really, thank you guys for the love and support, really, for that you've rendered on this channel. But yeah, that's the news. Yes, yesterday he did say, Fabrizio Romano, that Arsenal will pay slightly more than the 60 million release clause as part of the pact with Real Sociedad for Martin Zubimendi deal. The fee would be a bit higher, but allowing Arsenal to pay in installments. Again, we did speak about that. The two clubs share a very, very good relationship, because they discussed, by the way, the Zubimendi deal during the course of last summer, as they were concluding the deal for Mikel Merino to make the switch from Real Sociedad to Arsenal. And remember, last summer, Liverpool wanted to sign Martin Zubimendi, but he ended up staying at the club. So it's not Liverpool to stay at Real Sociedad. Also, the relationship that Mikel Arteta has with the region in San Sebastian also plays a factor to that, because that's where Zubimendi is from. Given that he himself, Mikel Arteta, is a Spanish manager, that speaks a bit to that in regards to how he relates to these players and how vividly he is able to paint a picture in regards to his plan and how they fit in his project and things of that nature. So for me, I do not find it a surprise that he is able to convince some of these players to join Arsenal over other suitors that are always interested. And like I said, his release clause is about £51.7 million, but Arsenal are going to pay up to about £55 million, because that allows them to spread the payments for this particular deal instead of paying one whole sum. Because usually when you're activating the release clause of a player, this is very common with La Liga teams or La Liga as a practice, that once you activate a player's release clause, oftentimes you're required to pay that in one go, in one installment, flat out. Arsenal did this when they were signing Thomas Partey from Atletico de Madrid. The deal stalled. Negotiations had not really gone well between the two clubs, and then eventually Arsenal just decided to notify La Liga that they were going to activate his release clause. They paid the money, and Thomas Partey made the switch to Arsenal. So in this particular case, the two clubs negotiated over a long period of time, and they did agree that Arsenal will pay extra. I mean, basically, this is nothing new or nothing so different in terms of business dealings. Even you are out there, I'm sure you've probably done this in your real life when you're buying certain items or assets. It's really it's very common when people are buying land, particularly if I'm to use the example of Uganda. It's more like a mortgage. It's also it's more like a car purchase, really. That, for example, they will tell you if you're buying the car by cash, it is going to cost you maybe $5,000. But if you're going to pay it in installments over the course of a period of time, then it could rise to $6,000-7,000 simply because you're spreading your payments over a course of a period of time. So basically, that's what Arsenal negotiated, that they be allowed to pay for the player in installments, and that's why they are going to pay a bit higher than what his clause suggests. Now, while some Arsenal fans or a section of Arsenal fans may feel frustrated that why are they prioritizing signing a midfielder and yet there's need for a striker, please remember this deal was negotiated way back in time, at the time when Arsenal were also negotiating for strikers, although they were not as successful on that front. During that period, they did negotiate for Benjamin Sesko, decided to stay with RB Leipzig, negotiated with Aston Villa for Oli Watkins, couldn't find an agreement between themselves. Their overvaluation, problems with Aston Villa demanding for £60 million, while Arsenal wanted to pay £40 million. So things of that nature do happen during these negotiations. So this deal was virtually completed longer than the opening of this summer transfer window. So there it is. You have it, Arsenal fans. Martin Zubimendi is on the verge of completing that move, that long-awaited move to Arsenal, also to make the switch to the Emirates Stadium. But also, it was a priority position to strengthen for Arsenal, because they well knew long in time at the very start of the season that Jorginho would be leaving the club at the end of the season, which felt like a natural climax of his career ever since he joined from Chelsea. He had helped a couple of players settle in well at Arsenal. You did see him being included in that traveling squad for the UEFA Champions League semi-finals in the return leg against PSG, even though we all knew or suspected that he was not going to play, and eventually he did not play. But he was there on the touchline, almost coaching those players as he sort of maybe pretended to be warming up, or he was warming up, really. So he was that key member in the dressing room, helping players, young players, speak to them, coach them. Even when he was on the pitch, he continued to do that. Every time he stepped on the pitch, and in the absence of Martin Odegaard, he was the one to carry the manager's instructions on how the team played, on how the team adapted. So he was a very, very crucial player in that Arsenal dressing room. But we all knew, even Arsenal bosses really knew, that it had come to that point when he has to be moved on because of age. We all can agree that Jorginho was no longer as physically capable in regards to the demands of the English Premier League game and the game overall at those high levels. So for him to leave the club was almost natural. So because they had to plan for that, they acted quick and they got this deal for Martin Zubimendi. And now with this unfortunate news that contract talks between Arsenal and Thomas Partey have not made any headway, and that the Ghanaian international could eventually leave the club, as sort of put Arsenal in an awkward position. It's not to say that it's not something they did not expect. They always knew there was a possibility of that happening, but that simply means that they also have to go back, maybe in the market, and find a midfielder that replaces Thomas Partey. However, that won't be as big a priority as it is with the striking role. However, just to upset Arsenal fans a little bit, please bear with me on this one. I'm simply a messenger, and do not shoot the messenger as opposed to the sender of the message. Now, there are reports making rounds that Arsenal have submitted a 6-year contract offer to Ajax defender Joel Hato. Now, remember, the 19-year-old Dutch international has attracted interest from Chelsea and Arsenal. However, Arsenal seem to be making headway in regards to landing the signature of the 19-year-old. Now, again, Arsenal fans will be up in arms. Why are Arsenal spending in another chunk of money on a defender when we have lots of defenders, when we've signed left backs, when we signed left-footed centre backs, and all things to do with that regard? Now, the reason for this is simple. Kian Tierney has already left the club as a free agent and reunited with Celtic, where he put pen to paper on a 5-year contract. Remember, he left at the end of last season. He did score in that final game for Arsenal as they were playing away to. I'm forgetting. Kindly remind me who Arsenal played in the final day in that away game against Southampton. Yes, as they beat up against Southampton, he even scored in that game as they won 2-1. So really, so Arsenal think they need a replacement there. Now, again, one would wonder if we already have Miles Lewis Kelly, if you have Karafiori, if you have Jakub Kivior, if you have Takahiro Tomiyasu, if you have Alexander Zichenko in that squad that all can play as left backs, why are you going for Jorel Hato? Why are you signing the defender? Why is he a priority when you can't spend that money on a striker? Well, the expectation is that Alexander Zichenko too will leave. And let's not forget that naturally, Miles Lewis Kelly is a midfielder. So maybe the departure of Thomas Partey is causing Arsenal to rethink Miles Lewis Kelly's development. Maybe they look to push him back in his natural position as a midfielder, and then they, with the expectation that Alexander Zichenko will leave, whether it will be for AC Milan that are interested in his services or another club that will come to sign him, remains to be seen. But at least the expectation at Arsenal or around Arsenal is that he will leave the club. So with that in mind, as I think Arsenal are also trying to be proactive in signing Joel Hato, but that's what we are receiving. But talks are progressing on both players' camp, and Ajax, the versatile left-footed centre-back, is now closer to Arsenal, with Chelsea trailing behind. Estimated fee is about 50 million euros. Now, again, the transfer fee that is sort of being floated around here is what is causing another stir around the Arsenal camp or amongst Arsenal fans. They are wondering, why are you willing to spend 50 million euros on a 19-year-old, left back / centre back, yet you are being reluctant on spending 70, 80 million euros on a priority striker? Why drag your feet on that? And yet, we are getting these reports that you're making headway on these, what they would consider as non-priority signings. Again, it depends on how Arsenal assess where they are and vis-a-vis what the Arsenal fans want. Of course, usually, even when I make my arguments, at the back of my mind, I do sort of retain the reservation that, well, the manager and sporting director do know what's best for the club, and none of them wants to fail at the end of the day. They all want to succeed, even though we may disagree on what the priorities are. So in the end, both ones want their club to succeed. The manager wants the club to succeed. The sporting director and all the bosses in that hierarchy want the Richard Garrick and all the others do want the club to succeed. So the priorities eventually boil down to them. But I mean, this news in itself is not really encouraging to an Arsenal fan, because their priority should be a striker. Get it done, whether it's Victor Gyökeres, whether it's Benjamin Sesko, whoever you may want to bring in, just get the deal done for a striker. But there you have it, Arsenal fans. So in regarding to Joel Hato, let's wait and see if indeed Arsenal make headway. Then also away, maybe a little bit away from Arsenal, I thought I should add this on because it's concerning Liverpool, because Joel Quaisha to Bayer Leverkusen is considered a done deal. That's according to Florian Plettenberg of Sky Germany. He says a full agreement has now been reached between Leverkusen and Liverpool. It's a permanent transfer with a contract until 2030. Transfer fee is 30 million euros plus add-ons. Medical is already being prepared and is expected to take place next week. The 22-year-old centre-back has been the top target to replace Jonathan Tah, who left, Bayer Leverkusen at the end of the season as a free agent, although Bayern Munich had to pay 850,000 euros as compensation to for Bayer Leverkusen to let Jonathan Tah out of his contract early so that he can represent Bayern Munich at the FIFA Club World Cup. Similar to what happened between Real Madrid and Liverpool for Alexander Trent-Arnold. So now, in the wake of that news, the Liverpool want to move really, really fast and fast track their pursuit of a defender. And top of that list is Mark Guehi from Crystal Palace, only 24 years of age. Apparently, has 1 year left to his current contract with the Eagles. So let's keep our eyes on that as well. So we do expect, that deal to also be fast tracked going into this, towards the end of this month. That means, Liverpool are looking to complete their fourth signing. Of course, Mamadashvili has already joined. Jamie Frimpong has already joined. Florian Wirtz is completing his medicals today to join as a Liverpool player. Milos Kerkez is expected to join next week, and then they want to bring in a centre back. Then they will move on to the strikers because Napoli are seriously pursuing Darwin Núñez, who also some analysts, some pundits, some experts have recommended to Arsenal, although I do not think Arsenal are really, really considering making a move for Darwin Núñez, who apparently, according to Liverpool, is valued at about 60 or 59 million pounds. So there you have it. Do let me know what your thoughts are on that news and more in regards to Liverpool, in regards to Arsenal, and everything that falls within that realm, whether you do agree with the priorities being made around the club or that's around Arsenal, around Liverpool. I do not think Liverpool fans have any qualms whatsoever in regards to their transfer business and how fast they are moving and how they are being quick in sort of concluding deals. So let's wait and see how everything wraps up in that realm. But that's the latest. That's the latest from the Arsenal camp, and then as well as Liverpool. So there you have it. Allow me to wrap it here. Thank you so much for being part of this mini live broadcast for the lunchtime hour sports update on your favorite Football Tribe UG channel. Always a pleasure to have you guys join us on the broadcast. It's always a pleasure. So thank you so much. Stay blessed. Let's meet later in the night to discuss more transfer news and more updates from your respective teams when that time comes. Bye bye and stay blessed for now.